breastfeeding education. This is the basics Q&A. I don't know how old your newborn is, or maybe you're just days away from having your newborn baby. Congratulations. Drop a comment down below and let me know what baby number you are on. I have 6 babies. My youngest is 7 months old and my oldest is 11 years old. I would just love to come alongside you as you celebrate this little one. But today I want to answer very basic questions about breastfeeding. Question number 1, when should I start breastfeeding after birth? As soon as you can get that skin on skin contact, go for it. A lot of hospitals are really good about that now. I remember in my birth plan, I had delayed cord clamping, basically where they were gonna, I wanted that basically and I think it's actually like a protocol now. I'm not for sure on that, but to let the cord stop pulsating before they cut it, and the baby can be laid on you before it's even cut. They might be kind of gross and stuff, but they can wipe them down and everything. But as soon as you can get that baby to latch, that baby is meant to, hardwired to find your nipple. It's just amazing how God has made babies, right? And so that baby is going to be looking for you, very early on. And as soon as you can, it's just great. Your milk hasn't come in yet. It'll be colostrum for a couple of days, and then your milk will come in. But as soon as you can, like I said. Number 2, how often should I breastfeed my newborn baby? They say every 2 to 3 hours, but I actually say probably every 2. Set the alarm on your phone. As soon as, they usually kind of fall asleep, but then start your alarm again. Maybe try both sides. In the beginning, it's a little hairy. You're learning, this baby's learning, and every baby is different. And so just give yourself grace in that way. But every 2 hours, and then once the baby has regained their birth weight and gotten that weight back, you can stretch it to 3. But if you're comfortable keeping it at 2, you're going to be a little foggy for a while. And so if the baby can tolerate 3 and you feel comfortable with that, you can push it to 3. But I would do 2 until baby's gained back what they lost. Question number 3, how long should each feeding session last? This is completely up to the baby. Whatever they will tolerate, 5 minutes is great, 10 minutes is great, anywhere in between, whatever they can do. Offer both sides. A lot of times babies can fall asleep, so you can try to bug them to keep them nursing, but whatever they can tolerate. Question number 4, how do I know if my baby is latching correctly? You'll know, you'll just feel it. Like it's really hard to explain. You're like, oh yeah, that's a latch, and you can just feel it. And actually, when your milk has come in, it can kind of burn a little bit too, like there's milk coming down for the baby, right in this moment. And so you can kind of get this little burning sensation. It doesn't hurt, it's not painful or anything like that, but then you yeah, I know. And then actually the other side will start doing that too. And that's a sign too that, well, she's got a good latch. So question number 5, how does my body know how much milk to make? It's a supply and demand issue. When the baby nurses, it tells your body to make more. And then, the baby goes through these cluster feeding spouts or spats, and we think, well, the baby's just not getting anything, the baby forgot how to do it. But that is what cluster feeding is. It's on again, off again. It's acting like we forgot everything that we just did. You can actually think that like we did so good yesterday or earlier today, and then all of a sudden now she's acting like she doesn't know what she's doing. It's cluster feeding. Maybe she did forget. That's why we practice. Next question. Can I increase my milk supply? Oh, excuse me, one more back. A couple back. What can affect my milk supply? Stress can affect your milk supply. If you eat some spicy food, some spices, added to your food, that can affect your that can affect your milk as well. The best thing that I have found for breastfeeding is to just roll with it. When you're a new mom, and you have 1 or 2, you're a little more anxious, my breastfeeding with baby 1 through 4 didn't go the best. I always breastfed them as long as I could, but especially with the last two, it's kind of a trust issue. You just trust your body. I just was trusting my body. You'll do what you need to do. My boys are fighting out there. Okay. Next question. How will I know if my milk comes in? It's like, well, I mean, you might like, you know, kind of ooze through your clothes, but you can feel it. It like it's kind of a burning, like right here. Not like a bad burning, but you can feel it. And then also like if you squeeze your nipple a little bit, it's not colostrum anymore. Now it's white, and it might not be much, because the baby doesn't need much. But colostrum is like a sticky. It's more of like a golden color, can be kind of clear. Um, Milk is white, and so obviously you're gonna tell the difference there. But the big thing is you can feel some burning right here. Is it normal for breastfeeding to hurt at first? The actual milk going into the baby's mouth, that doesn't hurt, but the sucking can hurt. I just breastfed my sister's newborn baby, and like it was like nothing, and like her eyes were like big and wide open, like you know um you know but like it felt like nothing to me. So for her, she is like, oh my goodness, like is this a preemie nipple? um so, but does it hurt, the actual act of the milk going into their mouth? No, I think it's more the sucking that hurts. What should I do if I get sore, cracked nipples? To be honest, you might just need to grin and bear it. Like they do make like lanolin cream that you can put on there that's safe for the baby. If the baby gets a little bit of it, that can kind of help. And just keeping them moisturized with that lanolin cream. What is engorgement and how do I manage it? Engorgement is when basically you haven't emptied a breast and it's getting big and you need to express some of it because it hurts. It's just very full. And so basically you either need to nurse or you need to pump. But if the baby's not ready to eat yet, then you should probably pump it. And if you do pump this side, then like say your baby feeds on this side and then maybe falls asleep and you're like, oh, and you can't get her to eat again. And I'm like, well, this side's engorged. So you pump a little bit. Like I would do probably just enough to make it so it's not engorged. Like I wouldn't drain it completely, but just so you're not engorged anymore. And then the next time she feeds, then I would go over to this side. And this is kind of a pro tip. Use like a rubber band or a scrunchie or whatever. And the last one you left off on, like say if you left off on this breast, put it on here. So then in your mind, I left off on this side, so now I need to go over here on that side. How do I know if my baby is getting enough milk? You really don't know. Like the baby's going to take what it needs, and obviously like we're very concerned about weight when they're little, right? My sister's baby, she was 6 pounds 9 ounces, and then when they went to their first appointment, she had lost a pound, and so then you're like concerned, right? And so I was actually giving some of my pumped breast milk to her. I didn't have much because I don't really pump all that much. I'm with my baby all the time. But what was the question? And so like that would be a concern, but like you really don't know what the baby's getting. And you're watching those wet diapers, of course, but a wet diaper for a newborn isn't going to be like wet for like a 7-month-old. Like so just watching those, I mean that's really the only way to really know for sure. But the thing is that's a little sketchy too, because with breastfeeding, babies are able to utilize that breast milk so effectively that sometimes, I mean, maybe not with urination, but definitely with like poops and stuff. Breastfed babies can go sometimes like a week without having a poop, and because they're just so good at using that. Um, so yeah, in short, you really don't know how much your baby's getting. It's just kind of a faith issue. Like if the baby's fussy, you just offer the breast, and then it's the baby's probably building your milk supply, and it's just kind of a faith thing. You just trust that God's going to give you what your baby needs. What are feeding cues to look for? Hands and mouth. That's a big one. Fussiness, of course, that's something like turning the head to the side, because that's what they're used to doing with like nursing is turning their head to the side. And babies as well will always prefer one side to the other. That's just a little tip as well. What is cluster feeding and is it normal? Cluster feeding is when your baby is they're basically spouts of time, like they could be a week at a time, half a week, probably more of like a week at a time, or a couple days, I suppose. Every baby's different in where they are, like my 7-month old, he's actually, I think, cluster feeding a little bit, but it's basically they're building your milk supply, so it's on again, off again, on again, off again. And when they're little, they can act like they forgot everything, like the latch, maybe you feel like they're not latching as well, or like they're just on and then they're off, and you feel like, well, there's nothing there, that's why they're off. And it's like, no, that's what cluster feeding is. It's just like this on and off and on and off. Now my baby Simon, he's 7 months old, and I kind of have a sneaky suspicion he's cluster feeding, but with him, he's more content. He'll just kind of like stop and like, I'm like, oh, well, you're done. And then he's back again, And so to me, that's kind of like a cluster. I think he's probably cluster feeding. They can cluster feed between 7 and 9 months as well. So that's just kind of what it is. They're growing your milk supply. And basically you just kind of work through it, like on again, off again, on again, off again. How often should my baby have wet and dirty diapers? Well, with breastfed babies, they can use the milk so good. So, especially with poopy diapers, it's really hard to say because they can go up to a week without pooping. Wet diapers, they're more frequent, but if they're really small, it's not going to be a ton of diapers in one day. And I think every baby's different. Should I wake my baby to nurse? Absolutely. When they're newborn, wake them up every 2 hours. If they've reached that birth weight again and you're a little more comfortable, and they can comfortably stretch to 3 hours, maybe 3 hours, is whatever you're comfortable with. But absolutely, even through the night, set your alarm on your phone, get up every 2 hours. And I know that sounds crazy. You're like, every 2 hours, that's crazy. But like, somehow we can do it. We just manage it. Like, God created us to do this, and it's a fog, and I'm not saying we're 100%, but somehow we get through it. And you could actually do it. Like, you look back and you're like, how did I do that? But you absolutely did it because you're on the other side of it. Do I need to pump if I'm exclusively breastfeeding? Absolutely not. You do not need to do that. That's why I actually don't have that much, pumped milk in my freezer, is because I'm with my baby all the time. The only time I pump is if he was satisfied on one side and then I have a surplus in the other side. Then of course the next time he nurses, I would go on this side, right? But why would he be satisfied with just one? Well, he's eating solid foods. We're whipping up foods when we eat. And so he's not like just eating breast milk, and so he's content, with other things as well. And so I do actually, tend to do that. Or if I know he's going to be eating, before too long, then I'll just like let it go. I don't pump unless I'm feeling uncomfortable, or like I'm away shopping and I'm feeling engorged. But no, you do not need to pump if you're exclusively breastfeeding. I mean, it can be nice to have some extra on hand, like in case of like an emergency or something, or, you have to run and dad's at home with the baby or something like that. We feel a little safe if we have a little stash, but you don't have to. When should I start pumping and storing milk? That kind of goes with the last one. How do I store breast milk safely? Okay, so it can last for a couple days in the fridge, and then you need to move it into the freezer, and then you put it in those freezer bags, and then it can last up to 6 months in there. So those are the questions I've answered for you. There were 23 of them. If you would like to connect with me in the comments, let me know how old your baby is. How many babies do you have? Do you agree with me on some of these? Is there anything else that you would add? I would love to hear from you. I'd love to connect with you in the comments. And like and subscribe to this video if you would like to do that, if you got encouragement from this video. Also, I plan to do other videos as well. I'm sticking with these breastfeeding ones first. But anything that I can answer for you, ask me whatever you would like, and I would love to come alongside you and bless you in that way. So until next time, bye for now.